Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again, and today I'm not going to do any gameplay or anything, but I'd like to talk about daggers and kind of identifying a good dagger, like when you see one, the difference between a good dagger, a great dagger, and the different types of daggers, because a lot of people still don't really know what they're looking at when it comes to daggers and what they can do or what they need to look for different builds and all that. So to start off with, I'll mention there are four different types of daggers. You have a caster dagger, pure caster dagger, a cast on crit dagger, an elemental one, and a physical one. Now, for any of these sorts of daggers, you need pretty much item level 79, which is this dagger here, item level 79. The reason for needing item level 79 is for the glyphic mod, which is a prefix which is 70 spell power or higher. It's like 70 to 75 spell power. Now, even if you're crafting a pure physical dagger, you want an eye level 79, just because on the off chance you roll a glyphic mod, you might be able to turn it into a good cast on crit dagger or spellcaster dagger or whatever, and then it's still profitable to you. If you're just going for pure physical though, and you really don't care about the glyphic mod, eye level 77 is what you need, which is flaring and celebration, which is the top tier flat fears and the top tier attack speed. So basically you need eye level 77 at the very least when going for a dagger. Now the three different types of bases that you essentially would use when starting with daggers or when looking at buying or using daggers. For the attack based daggers, an ambusher or an imperial skein. These are my two choices, primarily because of attack speed. So the imperial skein is the second fastest type of dagger, 1.5. Ambusher is the fastest, which is 1.6. The damage is extremely similar, as you can see. Imperial Skein has just a bit more crit though. So in some cases people would prefer this just because it has a bit more crit instead of attack speed. But the reason most people choose attack speed and an ambusher is to scale elemental auras and elemental damage, which is pretty directly influenced just by your attack speed. And on top of that, the faster your dagger, the faster you're going to be able to generate power charges, get your crits off, attack things before they attack you. Your whirling blades is going to be faster. So really, all in all, you kind of want as fast a dagger as possible. But with that comes a few issues sometimes with physical builds maintaining mana, mana leech, that sort of thing. So it's kind of up to you, I feel, which dagger you go for. But basically an Imperial Skein or an Ambusher is the ones you want generally. Now there are exceptions. You can be using a Platinum Chris, which is the slowest type of dagger, if you say Flicker Strike, or some sort of builds like that want to hit hard and not that often. But Platinum Chris's are the other type of dagger, or Chris type daggers are the other type you'd really go for, which is for spellcasters, because they have the highest base crit there, 80 crit. Platinum Chris might not be the greatest choice just because it's the highest tier of this dagger and it has the highest dex requirement, which you might often be in need of. You might often be lacking, I mean, when you're a caster. So you can go with a Copper Chris, which is like the lowest tier of Chris, but as long as it has 80 implicit crit, that's what you're worried about. So now we've established bases, item levels, all that sort of stuff. Let's jump into what you need for an elemental dagger. Elemental daggers are basically the most simple types of daggers. And for an elemental, you definitely want an ambusher as your number one dagger. Imperial Skeins can be fine. Pretty much any of them can be fine, but it takes a lot more work to get the others to work for elemental. Ambusher 1.6, it's really good. So what you kind of want for an elemental dagger, this is a pretty decent one, but it's still not fully top tier. As far as elemental daggers go, your number one priority is crit and then attack speed. So you really want the max roller crit, which is right here, gets you up to 9.21. At a minimum, I'd say you want 8 crit. And then 15 attack speed is pretty good, you know, as far as Mastercraft goes. It boosts your dagger up to 1.84, but you really want max attack speed once again there. I don't know if I have a max attack speed thing anywhere, but it boosts you up to Yeah, this is close enough to a max attack speed. Boosts you up to over 2 attacks per second, which is exactly what you want for elemental. So this is a pretty basic elemental dagger that you can craft yourself. They're not very hard to craft, and it's probably one of the most recommended choices for crafting daggers. Grabbing a 77 to 79 ambusher base, and basically you just roll daggers until you get a top crit or a top attack speed, and which is a suffix, and a prefix, which is usually a good cold damage, lightning damage, or fire damage roll. It might take you a few hundred alterations, but it can pay off, and then you regal it and fill in the blank with the master crafting system. So this one was pretty good for me. I got a nice, really high crit roll, and then you can put on your own attack speed roll. The next thing you're looking for is T1 or Tier 1 elemental damages or weapon elemental damage. So by that I mean this. Weapon elemental damage there. Get rid of that. Weapon elemental damage. That's a prefix as well. And so your perfect dagger can have 2 T1 elemental damages, lightning and cold preferably, and then weapon elemental damage. And then the last thing you're looking for is crit damage. So just like on this dagger has crit damage or global critical strike multiplier, and attack speed. So as far as elemental dagger goes, they are your top 3 priorities. After that, you get elemental damage, and the more elemental damage you have on your dagger, the more damage you do, but it's really not as important because most of your damage comes from auras and heralds. So crafting your own elemental dagger is probably the most advisable venture as far as crafting daggers goes, and you might still be able to come across some nice physical daggers which could net you a decent profit. Even something as basic as this just has the top crit roll, a nice fire, put on some attack speed, and you got yourself a very good starter crit elemental dagger. So from there we'll move on to cast on crit daggers, which are extremely similar, except you don't need the elemental rolls. You'd rather go for spell damage rolls. Aside from that, you're still looking for top tier crit, basically. So this is a really good one that I found myself, I didn't craft. What you're looking for on a cast on crit dagger, first and foremost, is lots and lots of crit. You want as much crit as possible to proc your spells, so then everything goes smooth and you kill things quicker. Second of all, you want lots of attack speed as well, to get those crits out faster, and thus making your gameplay a lot smoother. After that, your next most important stat is spell damage. So it's going to be hard to get, and usually crafting them is not super easy. So you can often just go and try and trade for the daggers and get a good find people selling them with just a good spell damage roll and one of the two attack speed or crit, and then fill in the blank with master crafting yourself. Can find some cheap daggers that way. And lastly, you can obviously get crit multi, or you can also put on some elemental leech from Katarina through the master crafting system. But as I was saying, the point of doing eye level 79 daggers is for glyphic. For example, with this dagger here, I was rolling physical daggers, got a 70 spell power roll, got a mid-tier attack speed roll, regaled fire damage, and put mastercrafted a good crit roll on there. And all of a sudden, you have a really strong cast on crit dagger. The thing's worth a decent bit, and it's a good step up from a dagger that has no spell damage. It's quite a large difference to get something like that. So, cast on crit daggers, elemental daggers, physical daggers, all of them, you really want the most amount of crit, because without a crit, a dagger is basically nothing. And then attack speed, also great roll to get to, but crit's usually the priority. So after that, we'll go on to physical daggers, which are kind of the hardest thing to roll by far, and if you don't have lots and lots of currency, I really don't recommend doing it. It's going to just hurt you in the long run, and you're much better off just buying sort of simpler or mastercrafted daggers yourself than trying to craft. So a physical dagger, this is one I crafted that basically lets you break even. Because it costs 2 exalts to put can have multiple crafted mods on there. And this won't sell for much more than say 3 or 4 exalts probably. It's about a 270 DPS dagger, physical DPS, with crit and attack speed. So just as with other daggers, your most important mod is going to be crit, aside from of course the physical damage. Crit, attack speed's nice too, but a dagger without crit is basically a worthless dagger. So if you can't get crit on your dagger, then it's really not worth looking at any further. If it's already used 3 suffixes on it, can't get crit, you basically can't use that dagger. Unless it's really, really insane other rolls. The other dagger I have is this one that I made as well. So that has like 250 physical DPS, but it is higher crit and higher attack speed. So it's the one I'm choosing to use at the moment. So when you're crafting a physical dagger, if you're crafting a physical dagger, what you're looking for is basically tier 1 rolls in the form of Emperors, which is the hybrid. It's something like 80% increased fizz and a bit of accuracy. That's a prefix. You're looking for Flaring, which is like 20 to 40 flat physical damage, which is this roll here, that physical damage. Or you're looking for Tyrannical, which is the highest physical damage percent roll, like on this dagger. From there, you can then potentially make a really good dagger. And the reason most people only keep one mod on there and then regal straight away instead of getting the prefix and then adding a suffix on with an augment is so you can basically it reduces the chances of you needing to get a good stat to then make the dagger. Because let's say, for example, you have a tyrannical dagger, like, this one. You just have a tyrannical, nothing else on it. If you then want to go ahead and keep crafting it, let's say you want to augment it, you now need crit or attack speed on that augment so that you can continue master crafting it. And then you still need to regal into the prefix slot to not completely ruin the dagger. Whereas if you just have a tyrannical roll and then you regal it, all you need is to hit anything on the prefix and then you can continue crafting that dagger with multiple mods. Because you will have to be putting on the flat physical and you have to be having attack speed and crit. So essentially when you regal, all you're hoping for is a prefix that's either really, really good, like Flaring, Emperors, whatever. Or basically you can go with nothing as well to then continue crafting. Or you can get a nice attack speed roll, a nice crit strike roll. Those will also let you continue crafting the dagger. But if you're not sure, usually good to ask a friend or a streamer or someone before crafting your, for regaling, augmenting, eternal exalting, whatever. So that's physical daggers, like I said, they will cost a lot to craft. They are hard to craft, and it's usually not worth doing unless you have lots of currency and you just want to have a bit of fun. Which is what I've been doing recently. I've come into some wealth, and I've been just trying to have fun crafting daggers. So I can also show a good example of a dagger that's pretty much top tier. You got yourself a Tyrannical Ambusher of Destruction. That's the T1 physical percent and T1 crit multi. You then need a really good regal, and I could turn this into something nice. You could go for the eternal regaling on an item like this, but it's not something you do unless you're really rich. So then lastly we have just Spellcaster daggers. And I have an example of such a dagger somewhere. I think. I hope. Maybe. Or did I leave it here? Bam. There it is, sorry. So it's a golden crest, it has 80% implicit, and then what you're looking for is a really high crit strike chance for spells roll, and a good spell damage roll. Usually you'd want a free prefix slot so you can add leech from an element of your choice for whatever spellcaster build you're playing. But this one only has a free suffix, which you can also use to add mana regen, which also isn't bad. But ideally, it's not too worth crafting these. It's usually good to just shop around for a really high crit spell roll that people have, and a free prefix and spell damage if you can too, and then fill in the rest for what you need on that dagger. They're pretty easy to craft though if you really want to go for it, but I think it's more worth it just buying. They're not too expensive. People don't value them very highly. So I think that's actually roughly all I wanted to cover on terms of dagger crafting. Even crafting a pretty good dagger like this, it's worth say 4 or 5 exalts. It's only half of what you can. It's about half a dagger compared to a mirrored dagger. So there's still a long way to go. Unless you're actually mirroring a dagger or trying to make your own mirrored dagger, you're never gonna see those types of daggers or that level of DPS. But this is more than enough to take you through the entire game, and it's pretty simple stuff. All you got to do is save up 4 or 5 exalts, and there's tons of these out there to buy, or make one yourself. It will be painful, but it might be fun. It might be rewarding, and yeah, that's pretty much all I need to talk about for daggers. Take home message: always need crit. Attack speed's really good for most things. And otherwise, use Master System to help fill in the blanks. And yeah, I hope you guys craft yourself some good daggers, or at least understand a little bit more about daggers from this video. And I hope it somewhat helped. So anyway, I'm Mathel. I do stream every day if you'd like to go check it out. But in any case, thanks for watching the video, and see you guys next time.